I wrote, produced, mixed, or mastered 132 songs in 2023. And here's 5 lessons I've learned over the past year that I want to share with you today. Now, some clarification. These songs that I mixed may have been producing projects, like full-on producing projects. They may have been mixing work, mastering work, or a lot of them are artist demos that will never see the light of day again. So they are not 132 songs that I wrote, produced, mixed, and mastered all together by myself and released under my name. But they are 132 songs that I worked on over the past year. And I know this because I just went through and had to back up all of 2023, and I had all of those as project files that I had to back up. So and that's what I was reflecting back and wanted to make this video, and the 5 lessons that I just really wish I knew sooner. And whether this is your first year producing music or whether you are in year 25 and you're a seasoned pro, I think this is still going to help you, even if it just reminds you of a lot of things. And I've been making music for over a decade, and some of these things may sound basic, but they still just hit so home over the last year. So lesson 1, templates do not create cookie cutter music. People do. Don't shy away from using templates. I did not use templates for an embarrassingly long amount of time. I really wish I would have picked these up a lot sooner. But nobody really explained them to me. I thought they made cookie cutter music. I thought, oh, well, you have the template and now everybody's going to sound the same because everybody's using the same template. Or you build the template and now you can't ever branch from it. Like, that's not how templates work. And so I have 2 analogies that are really going to drive home. The first one is, imagine you get in your car and you go for a nice long drive. You're enjoying the view. You go maybe stop by the beach and you're just really having a great time. You get back in your vehicle and you go and you park it in your garage. And immediately after parking it in your garage, you take all of the seats in your car, you slide them back, you take the wheels off, maybe hang them on the wall or put them on a shelf, and then you disassemble the entire car. And then the next time you want to go for a drive, you have to reassemble the entire car before you can even get out of the garage door. That's what it's like after using templates for a while and then going back to not using it, like opening up a blank slate. You're like, oh my word, what is going on here? I have to reassemble my entire car all over again. And the thing is, you can change the paint job of the car later on. You can put new tires on it. You can take a different route with that car. That's exactly how templates work. So do not shy away from them. Use them. And the second analogy that might hit a little bit more home, especially if you're a guitar player. I'm a guitar player. I've been a guitar player for about as long as I can remember. And if I have an entire pedal board and I have my amps and all that other fun stuff, and like if you were to like tweak my knobs, I would freak out. So imagine getting done playing a gig and you take all of your knobs and bring them back to 0. And then next time you have to play another gig or you bring out your guitar, you have to tweak all the knobs in the right spot again. That's what it's like when you don't start with a template. Obviously, mid-set, I can reach down, crank up the drive a little bit if I want to. Obviously, I could go down and make changes mid-song, but I'm already starting with something I really like and I'm comfortable with and I know. That's what it's like using templates. So please, use templates and don't let them be used by you, though. And this is the caveat, and this is the reason. Like, there's real fear in like cookie cutter sounding music because of templates. It's a legitimate fear. You could get templates, and I have templates that I give away and I sell on my main channel, and there's tons of that stuff out there, and like there's tons of it online, no matter what DAW you use. And because of that, a lot of people download these templates, don't really know what they're doing, don't ever go in and tweak anything, and they just start doing their own stuff, and things sound very, very similar to one another. That's the danger of templates. But you're a smart cookie. You're here. You're still watching this video that is completely unedited for almost 4 minutes now. So you're a smart cookie. You have the attention span long enough to know that I could probably go into the template and start making some changes and some tweaks. So that's something that I wish I would have learned sooner. And it was an embarrassingly long amount of time that I did not use templates and was rebuilding the car from scratch and rebuilding my pedal board from scratch every single day. So don't do what I did. Learn from my mistakes. Every single DAW uses templates. Just use them. All right, so lesson 2. Do not underestimate the power of a killer, incredible song. It's like the main core element. Things just start to fall into place when you're working with a great song. I can look over the past year, and I remember the times when making music was a drag, and it was because we weren't working with a great song at the start. And then I remember when I was in complete flow state, and 5 hours of working on the song felt like 30 minutes. It was incredible. That all stemmed down to a great song. So if the lyrics and the melody, or even just the melody and arrangement and the chords that you choose are just killer, it's going to be so easy to produce that out because it should be inspiring you down a path. You shouldn't have to inspire it down a path. So really think about that. If you're struggling trying to take a song somewhere, it's probably the song itself. Now there are obviously times where like both paths can go great. Like I'm like, do I take this more down like a hard rock style, or do I kind of like keep this like more like pop rock style? Like obviously, but like you can hear those things and like hear how it goes both directions and it inspires you in both ways. That's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about where like you have no idea where to take it. That's probably the idea's fault, really, at the core. So I like to there's like a signal chain of flow as like as a live mixing engineer, even in the studio, when something's not working, there's a live like chain signal flow that you have to go through and figure out what's not working. Okay, my microphone is not recording into my DAW. Is my cable plugged in? Is my cable plugged into my interface? Is that plugged into the wall? Is that plugged into the computer? Is the computer reading it? All that other stuff. There's like a signal flow that you have to go through to figure out where the core issue is. I think of it the same way when producing and writing music. I like to think of, I'm struggling here. Let me keep going back until I notice there's an issue. So, okay, so I don't like the song, the way the song's going. I feel like I'm struggling to choose sounds. So maybe it's not the sound's fault. Maybe the song idea itself is not inspiring a direct direction for me to choose specific sounds. So just keep working that signal flow back until you eventually hit the issue. If you're mixing, maybe it's not the song ideas or the song idea's fault. It actually might just be the sounds that you chose and the way you recorded it at the source. And so you just want to like work that back until you find the issue, then fix it and then move on. You don't want to like try to fix recording issues in mixing, and you don't want to try to fix songwriting issues in the production phase. Just please don't do that. A killer song will put you in flow state and it will inspire you to continue down a path of the song. So if you're struggling, just go back to the song. Do not underestimate the power of a great song. It'll change your life. All right, so lesson 3, and this is a tough one. Do what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it. I made a few mistakes this past year, and it cost me a little bit because the thing was, I told people I would do some projects for them for free, and I started getting flooded with a lot of paying client work, and I was starting to push some of those free projects off a little bit, and that was not the right thing to do. That was not what I should have done. I should have did what I said I was going to do when I said I was going to do it, and so because of that, I pushed a couple free projects off a little bit longer than I should have, and because of that, someone went with somebody else and somebody else went with somebody else. And it was a tough situation because I had a lot of free time at the beginning of the year, and then I did not in the middle of the year. But just because I need to pay my bills does not mean that I don't need to keep my word. And that was a mistake that I made this past year, and I do not want to make that again. So learn from my mistakes. Do what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it. Now, here's the cool part about this whole thing, right? If you just want to stand out in the music industry, just do what you're going to do. Do what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it. Like, you can stand out so well. If you show up on time, people are going to notice that. Like, the industry is notorious for having people not show up on time, flake out, all of this kind of stuff. You have no idea what's going to happen with the song. Like, when people work with me, there's a deadline, and I almost always hit that deadline, except for these free projects. And it was a bummer because I shouldn't have done what I did, but I did. And so I want to not do that this year, and I want you to not do that this year as well. So it's so easy to stand out if you just do what you're going to say you're going to do. Just do it, and do when you say you're going to do it. So that was lesson 3. And that was definitely a hard lesson I had to learn this past year. And so also, on the side note of this too, sometimes you have to get used to saying no. And this is one of the big issues that I had because I was saying yes to everything. And I totally get sometimes you can be like in a yes mode, but you have to be comfortable with saying no. Because if you say yes and you actually bite off more than you can chew, which is exactly what I did, by the way, you actually bite off more than you can chew and there's only so much you can handle, you start prioritizing the work. And I was like, well, these are paying clients and they're going to get like super mad. It's like, well, by the way, the free people like also said yes, like, and I said yes, and I didn't follow through with that. And so there's that conflict of interest there. And so you need to be comfortable with saying no. And you also need to be comfortable with saying no to even like the higher paying opportunities. If you're somebody who does this for money, you have to be comfortable with saying no because you said you were going to do this and you need to hold up to your word. And that also means that you have to say no to something in order so that way you can continue to say yes to this. With that being said, sometimes you have to look at the situation and now when free work comes my way, I can't do it. I just can't do it because I know that there's going to be other work that comes my way that I would rather do so that way I could put food on the table for my family and things like that. So I want to make sure that I only say yes to things that I know that I can do. So don't just say yes to everything and then figure out how to deliver on it. Definitely figure out what you can deliver on and then say yes to those things. Big long rant all about just do what you're going to say when you're going to do it. So lesson 4, I love this. Humility is not thinking less of yourself, but increasing your regard for others. That was a big lesson that I learned this year that I was super kind of like excited about, because when I was growing up and everybody talking about humility is like, you want to be humble, you want to bring yourself down. And that's not what humility is. It's not bringing yourself down. It's bringing everybody else up around you. That's humility. Do not think less of yourself, but think highly of those around you. Humility was a big shift for me because when I'm working in the studio, it actually empowered me to empower creativity inside the studio. I wasn't trying to lessen myself. I was actually trying to elevate the people that I was working with. I wanted them to feel better about themselves, and they're not going to feel better about themselves if they're working with a producer who does not feel good about himself. Does that make sense? So you definitely want to use that and flip it, because it's still selfish to be humble in the way that I was used to, which is to think less of yourself, because you're still thinking of yourself. Humility is not thinking of yourself constantly like, oh, I'm not good enough, I'm not that. It's not humility at all. You're still thinking of yourself, which is kind of ironically a selfish thing to do. You completely shift your focus off yourself and onto the people that you're working with, and you can lift them up with you. So humility is not thinking less of yourself, but increasing your regard for others. And lesson 5, and this is actually one of the best things that I could have ever learned, and it's just a constant reminder, like day in and day out for me. And when you get this lesson right, you get great songs. You you are able to just create incredible music, and you're able to empower incredible art. Some of you are going to push back on this, and I would love to hear what you have to say in the comments, okay? So lesson 5, people first, art second. And the reason for this is, even if you want great art, even if you truly want to put art in front of people, which I don't recommend, I don't think that's a great idea. I think we should put people first. But if you try to put art in front of people, people that are making the art are not going to put their best foot forward. So you want to empower people to make incredible music. And this is, I want to tell a specific story about this that I actually learned a couple years ago, but this past year was just a great reminder for me. A couple years ago, I was in this band, and people were just not going the direction that the song should have gone. Objectively, the song would be better if we went down this one path. I knew it, and like the bassist knew it. And we were kind of both going back and forth. And so finally, I decided to do something which I thought would empower the song and serve the song better, but it actually ruined it. I decided to stand up and say, hey guys, this path that we're doing is not working. It's obvious. We can all see it. We need to do this instead. And I did it and said it in a harsh way that ended up completely destroying the vibe of the room. And what ended up happening was they made the shift away from what they were doing, but they were scared to go headfirst down the new path we all kind of started to agree on. And that's because I ruined the vibe of the room. I put art first, and I put people second. And because people make art, we made bad art that day. And I ruined the vibe of the room. And I'll never forget that. And now when I have people in the studio, I always want to make sure that I'm empowering them to make better music and to make incredible sounding tracks, because I want them to light up when they see their tracks being listed out in the DAW. I want them to light up inside and be so stinking excited that their vision in their head is coming to life. And if I destroy the vibe of the room by saying, that take wasn't good, let's do it again. Nah, that wasn't good, let's tighten that up a little bit. Instead of saying it like that, there's other ways that you can say it where you're putting people first and putting the art second. So one of the best ways I like to do this is I like to imagine talking to somebody like they are the coolest person in the entire world, because they are. Like they have decided to pay me money so they can work with me, so that way they can get their music out into the world. They are like the coolest person in the world, that they believed in me, that I could do this for them. So already I have like a great shift in mind. So as I'm working with them in the studio or working with them remotely, I like to do this while they're tracking stuff. Give this a try. If you work with people, give this a try. Instead of being like, hey, let's try that. Let's tighten that up a little bit. Let's get this here. What you'd want to do, and what I like to do, and you can try this for yourself if you'd like to, is when working with a guitarist and I'm like, hey man, you want to be the coolest guitar player in the entire world? Give this a shot. Try this. And then I'll show them what to try. And if it works, I praise them. And if it doesn't work, I blame me. I'm like, oh, that was a dumb idea. I just wanted to check it out. I wanted to see how it would work, but I was definitely wrong about that. But thanks for letting me try that out. And they still feel like the most awesome person in the whole wide world. If they need to tighten up a track a little bit, you're like, hey, that was a great take. I want to track another one, and I want to see if we can tighten that up even more. And then you do it again, and you're like, that was an incredible take. You are literally going like exponentially better. Let's grab another one. And so it might be a little bit of extra work for you, but at the end of the day, that's really all that matters, is putting people first. The only reason art exists is because people exist to create it. And the only reason art will continue to exist is because there's people there to enjoy it as well. It all comes down to people. I would love to know what you have to say in the comments about putting people first and art second. Let me know down below. I'm super excited to start that conversation. But these are 5 lessons that I learned over the past year, and making about 132 songs, whether that was mixing, producing, writing, or just artist demos that never see the light of day again. So let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, definitely subscribe. This is my unedited channel. I press record, I talk to you guys, give you lessons. If you want to go to my main channel, that will be in the description below, where they're a lot more tight, a lot more edited, and a lot more direct. Like, this is the step-by-step EQ. This is the step-by-step compression, and all that other fun stuff. So thank you so much for being here. I appreciate every single one of you. I'll see you in the next one.